in studio with me. Get that mic a little bit closer to you. I want to make sure they hear you loud and clear. R. Kelly stories just don't seem to go away. Just last week, a stylist came out, went on CBS and was talking about how she was allegedly assaulted by R. Kelly, and you were on Surviving R. Kelly. Is that correct, Asante?
Yes.
Where did we start with this? Because obviously you have a book that's out right now, right?
I do.
For people that may not know about or didn't see Surviving R. Kelly, can we take them back to the beginning? Like how all this came to life? Like when did you guys meet?
I originally met Rob in 2003. I'm sorry, 2013, but officially 2014.
Okay.
And we started dating February 2014. And so I was what you consider a fly-in. So I would fly in and out to wherever city he was at, wherever he, told me to come. It was times that I would see him. It was times I wasn't.
Okay.
It was understood, that he did have other women. That was something that I accepted. I did not start really seeing that abuse until he moved me into his house.
Okay, so that's a lot right there. I mean, you knew about R. Kelly's past before you met him, right? Because a lot of us did. I'm a huge fan of R. Kelly at that time. So when allegations came out years ago, I was torn, right? It kind of went away. But now you meet R. Kelly in 2013, you said?
Yes.
And you started a relationship knowing his past. Was it not starstruck? Was it just the way he was that attracted you to him? Or what was it make you feel like, you know what? Forget what I heard in the past. I'm going to find out for myself.
Well, for me, I've never seen that sex tape.
Okay.
And so when he got acquitted, then I felt like, okay, there's no way they would acquit somebody if it was indeed him.
A lot of people thought that way. You're right.
And so you always heard about him being a predator. So with me being around him, I've never seen an underage girl.
Okay.
So you never heard about the abuse that he does to women. And so, I dated him. And when he actually moved me into his house, when I saw one of the girls, I actually realized I had saw that girl a year prior. And at that time, that girl was 17 years old.
And you knew that because you guys had communicated, or you just saw him passing?
When I saw the girl in 2015, I thought she looked young, but I'm like, okay, a lot of us look younger than we really are.
Yeah.
And so when he moved me into the house, somehow we ended up having a conversation, and he was not around, and somehow she mentioned she was 18. And so I'm like, hold up, if you 18 and you turn 19 in December, I just saw this girl in July of 2015, meaning she was 17 years old.
So you're adding it up, right?
Right.
Definitely makes sense.
And so, at the time, it was me and two other girls. The girl that was 18 years old, and then the girl who we know as the trainer. And so I would see, one or two other girls come to the house or whatever, but they were not living there. One of the girls was still in college, so she would, come from college to see him and different things like that.
Okay, so now you mentioned a trainer. What kind of trainer was this that was involved with this? And first of all, did all the girls ever interact together? Did y'all have dinner together? Did you ever see each other in a house or at certain places?
When you move in, you do.
Okay.
Right. So when I was just flying back and forth, he always told me that I would meet the girls, but I never did. And so April of 2016 is when I actually saw the trainer.
Okay.
And he introduced me and, told me how long she's been with him, and she was going to please me she was going to train me to please him.
Wow.
Sexually.
Okay.
And then, every time it was a new tour leading to him moving me to the house, I met the other girls. The other girls knew me. Well, at least two of the other girls knew me because they embraced me with a hug. And I didn't have any idea who they were.
Right. Okay.
So later on, I found out there was a conversation when he introduced me to the trainer. He was like, this is the girl that I had sitting on the Sprinter back in Chicago. And I was like, I was being tested. That's when he had me on the Sprinter for 8 hours.
The Sprinter?
Yes.
What is that?
A Mercedes, huge SUV that a lot of celebrities actually ride in.
Okay.
So I was in there for 8 hours.
Okay. So we have Asante McGee hanging out with the K-Day Morning Show, a survivor, R. Kelly. Met him back in 2013. Like a lot of people felt when he was acquitted. Okay, that must not have been true. I'm going to continue to love his music. What is it about this dude that had you want to be involved with him and knowing there's other women? Did he do something that you never experienced before? The way he talked to you? Did he sing to you on his piano? What did it for you?
Well, I think for me, coming out of an abusive marriage, and my husband had already cheated on me and had a baby out of the deal. And I felt because he was honest, and I would have been a fool. I mean, he's R. Kelly. And, So
you know what comes with that for the most
So
part.
because he was honest, that was something I accept. I realized a lot of people always say, "Oh, I don't feel sorry for you because you know you were grown, you knew what you were doing,
Right.
and all of that stuff." For me, Rob likes to get people that's vulnerable. So if he see that, you know, that you're easy to manipulate, and that's the reason why he actually like being with younger girls, because, you know, he is easy to manipulate. So by him knowing my background and he put me through various tests and I passed those tests, that's why I ended up becoming a live-in.
Man, okay, this sounds like some modern day pimping. That I mean, and when I say that because like you said, he finds the weakness and he knows how to apply to that and like make it work and make you feel like you're in good hands with me.
Yeah.
Now, did he ever have conversation about like, because there's rumor that he had conversation with some of the people he was with about Aaliyah back in the day and possibly her mom. Did you hear any of that information too?
Rob was very private.
Okay.
And so things like that, at least for me, he never shared anything like that with me.
Okay.
So I can't speak on, you know, if he shared those things with others, but I just know he's very private when it comes down to situations with each individual girl.
Now, knowing there's a lot of sexual partners, I'm gonna get a little personal. Were you ever nervous about not using protection?
Very. Like in the beginning, and then I guess after actually moving in and just seeing, because I remember one day I came out of my room and 3 girls was coming out the black room with their head down.
Okay.
And it's like...
The black room.
Right.
What's the black room?
The black room is pretty much where every and anything went down.
Okay.
Things that's like terrifying, things that you didn't agree with. And, you know, people say, oh, you know, you're an adult. How could you just let things happen? I mean, when you love somebody and you feel like they have your best interest, and he just, you know, pretty much make you feel like, okay, well, she doesn't have a problem doing it, then why do you? Or different things like that. So it's just like, I was very vulnerable.
Man, okay, so you're in this, and how many years were you involved in this for, Asante?
2 years, and that's another thing that a lot of people always say. Well, you accepted it for all those years. The first 2 years, I was not abused by him.
Right.
I never said I was held captive.
Right.
I was mentally trapped when I moved into that house. Within the second week of that house, I just actually started plotting my getaway.
Because you didn't have a key, you didn't have a way to get out of the house when he wasn't there. Like, could you go
No, we
to
were
the
never
mall,
we
to
were
the
never
store?
left. We were never left in the house alone.
Okay,
When he left, we left with him.
got you.
Right. So it was never. And then his house is a long driveway. There's security, armed security at the end of the driveway. So you don't know what he's told security to do if you were to try to walk out of this house or anything. So you're not about to take, because he always tell you somebody's watching you.
So you're fearing for your life.
Right.
And you're torn because there's some excitement and enjoyment in this, but yet you feel like, okay, something's not right. What have I got myself into, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Asante hanging out with the K-Day Morning Show, talking about surviving R. Kelly. What made you walk away? How did you get away? Matter of fact, where was his house at? Because he had, from what I'm hearing, houses all over the country.
The house that I was living in was the main house in Johns Creek, because he actually had 2 houses. I didn't find out about the second house until after I left. So the second house, I guess, was the guest house where he had some other girls, whoever he flew in. But I lived in the main house in Johns Creek.
And when you're in the main house and there's other women, did you ever hear them having sex, or like could you hear other things going on, conversations and things like that?
I've witnessed fellatio in front of me. Yeah.
How does that affect you today, Asante?
Mentally, it's affected me mentally. And for me, I didn't know, like, you know, when I reached out to those parents for them to get their children back, and then, you know, we were talking about surviving R. Kelly and all of that. And when I went to the house to film, I mentally broke down trying to go into the gate. And I didn't know that it had a huge impact until afterwards. And then even after the docuseries, I mentally broke down. Like, I cried for hours and hours and hours.
So they actually took you guys back to the actual house to
For
film it?
me, because I was the last person, I was the only person on Surviving R. Kelly that lived in that house.
Yeah.
So I felt that the audience needed to have a visual of what type of living we were, were doing. And who else was going to explain what each room was if they haven't been in the room?
So you get away from it, and how do you get away, Asante? What was your escape?
Well, originally my escape was he had a show in New Orleans for Father's Day. That's where I'm from.
Okay.
So I was going to have like some, friends or whatever come to the show, and I was going to leave with them. But that Wednesday before, I actually got into an altercation with the trainer, and we were going back and forth. And he, one of the assistants was like, "Hey, Mr. Kelly, Asante and so about to get into a fight." So he called me. We were talking. We go outside, and I'm telling him what's going on. He said, you have the black woman syndrome. You don't like another woman telling you what to do, especially a younger girl, a younger woman. And I was like, no. And I was like, Rob, you know I've been abused. You promised me that you would never hurt me. And he was just like, don't nobody care about your abuse. I've been abused, blah, blah, blah. So it was like he was just dismissing everything that I had to say.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm like, you done lost your mind. And so we was outside maybe about 30 minutes, security out there. I'm trying to figure it out. So finally, when I went inside, I had a friend that actually lived not far from where we worked not far from where we live. So I texted her like, hey, are you at work? She was like, yeah. I said, well, can you come and get me? Pretend like you're Uber or whatever. And so she was like, okay. She called one of her friends like, hey, this is the address. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to get Asante. If you don't hear from me in 2 hours, call the police.
Right.
So she texted me. She was like, hey, security's not letting me in the driveway. I said, okay. So I came down with my luggage, and he was outside with the trainer and one of his assistants, and he looked shocked. He was like, oh, you leaving? And I said, yeah. And so he was like, that's your Uber? And I said, yeah. Of course, he's not going to make a scene in front of his assistant, the trainer, as well as security. So
it's kind of a perfect time for you to get out.
Right.
Okay.
So I walked down the long driveway, and I got in the back seat as if she was Ubering.
Yeah, you played it, right?
Right. And so when I left, you know, I was like, I flew out of town. I didn't even stay in Atlanta. I actually flew to Dallas to one of my friends. And I was just like, I got to gather my thoughts. So when I came home, I was like, this is not cool at all. I need to let these parents know what I've witnessed, what I've gone through, because they need to get those girls out of there now.
Right.
And that's how we ended up with Surviving R. Kelly. I never knew that me contacting those parents would have led us where we are today.
Wow. So you're kind of forefront of that, and which is huge. I mean, we have a court date coming up, I believe, in May with him. We know he tried to get to Dubai, claiming he had shows so he can get away and possibly stay over there. What do you want to happen to R. Kelly?
Most importantly, I do want him to be held accountable for his actions, but I feel like he needs help, because even if he goes to jail, he has a sickness. Okay. And so, okay, if he go to jail, he get a couple of years, get out on probation, he's still going to continue having this sickness. Even when he was released on bond, he went to McDonald's. He's showing people he's untouchable. So I just feel like it's deeper than jail. Gotcha. Now, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be held accountable, but it's deeper than jail.
Did R. Kelly ever share some of the stories that he went through as a youngin' that could have possibly put him in this state of mind? You ever had those conversations with you?
He never went into depth, but he did let me know that, he was sexually abused. And for me, a lot of people try to make that as an excuse because he was abused. Why his behavior? I was abused as a child. I was abused as an adult. I am not an abuser.
Gotcha.
So we can break that cycle just because your past does not define you. So I just hate when people always try to make an excuse for an abuser.
Right. And I think, Asante, you're going to get some people saying, well, you should have known better. You're going to get some people saying, I understand. You know what I'm saying? If you're in a state of mind where there may be a weakness within you and someone comes in and says the right things, possibly do the right things, especially after what you've been through with your marriage, right? So I can see how that can happen. So now let's get to the book. When you put the pen to the paper, was that sort of like a way to you release? Was that therapy for you?
For me, it was therapy, but I think because I received a lot of backlash before the docuseries, like when I started, doing interviews when the news broke out about what was going on, I had people that was attacking me personally. And even as me being abused as a child, there are rumors saying that I lied on my mama and I, did self-inflicted wounds to myself, which is sickening for somebody to say a child abused themselves.
Right.
They went to court. They had professional doctors, psychologists. I'm sure that even on the court document said how many wounds. There's no way I self-inflicted 40-something wounds to myself as an 8 or 9-year-old. Yeah. So I felt that I needed to write this book, maybe give some people understanding my upbringing, to show how I led up to be so vulnerable for him. People always say you're old enough. So what's the difference with me falling for somebody that I love dearly? Right. He's a celebrity versus somebody that you met at the corner store. Okay. And so it's like I'm getting attacked personally because of who the person is versus if it was just somebody else on the street.
Yeah, maybe in a whole different situation. Yeah. People probably look at it a little bit differently.
Exactly.
And a lot of people just going to say, well, you knew what you were getting into. It was R. Kelly. You knew he came with all of this luggage, so to speak, He
gave me few ground rules, call your daddy, let him know where you at, different things like that. So for people to keep telling me, oh, you knew what you were doing, you knew what you were getting yourself in, the money ran dry and all of this stuff, it was never about money for me. These interviews, people keep saying I'm getting paid for interviews. We do not get paid to do interviews.
Right.
I'm going to tell my truth, and no one is going to silence me.
There you go. I mean, you have to be vocal about it. And the name of your book is called what, Asante?
No longer trapped in the closet.
Yeah. And you want to do it to empower women, self-love, awareness, all of that, because you have just told us what all you've been through, and you're a survivor of it. Wow. I mean, it's just so amazing that you're sitting here talking to me, and I appreciate you taking out the time. And I'm praying that things work out for you and it goes well. You know, but I just think moving forward, you got to create that thick skin, because you're going to get people still saying, well, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and
so.
I get more support than hate. And because I get more people that support me, that's what keep me speaking. I'm not going to be silenced by anyone. They could continue trying to threaten me. They could do whatever they can do, but I'm going to continue being vocal. And for me, it's not just about R. Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
It's about abuse generally. I mean, women, men, we're getting abused every day, and it's so many untold stories.
It really is.
So I just want to give people that voice and have that courage to speak out against their abuser.
All right, man. I appreciate you stopping by the show, but I got to ask you this. How is life for you now? Like trying to move on to a new relationship. When someone approaches you, do you have this wall up now?
I do.
You know?
I feel like everyone has a hidden agenda.
Okay.
And it's sad because a lot of people inbox me, oh, I could treat you better, this or that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm not about to fall for the shenanigans. I just feel like I could be wrong. It could be some people that have good intentions, but all of I've gone through, not even with just Rob, throughout past relationships, because I tried to date after Rob, and he ended up being a Rob on a different level.
Yeah.
But my trust level is really, really hard.
Okay. Well, I know you'll find your way. You know what I mean? I think this is the beginning of you finding your way, or part of this whole journey. So, Asante McGee hanging out with the K-Day Morning Show. Romeo, make sure you pick up the book. Once again, it is called what?
No Longer Trapped in the Closet.
Where can they get it at, and how can they follow your journey on Instagram, all your socials?
The book is actually on Amazon.com, and I
Okay.
also have a website, Asante McGee.